Hi, welcome to episode 373. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where every episode's show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, April 11th. It is decidedly springy and actually quite warm here. I need to go ahead and take off my sweater soon. I wore it this morning because it was chilly, but it is now nice and sunny outside. I have been in and out a little bit. I was up early because I got my car serviced today. And so lots of adulting and chores, but also I finished my work early, so I've been able to spin a little bit this afternoon. So I hope that you are having a good week. The world continues apace with both good and bad things. And so this podcast and my crafting is an attempt to stay sane in a slightly crazy world. So I hope that your week is off to a good start. I want to thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, I don't have tons of content for today, but I do have some to share with you. And if you are a returning viewer, thanks for coming back to check out my projects again. So let's start with what I am drinking. This is sort of an aberration because quite often I drink tea, hence the Corner of Knit and Tea. But today I just felt like a cup of coffee, and since I got up super early to drop my car off around 7:30 this morning, I went ahead and made a pot of coffee. So I am drinking my favorite coffee, which is from The Roastery, which is a Kansas City coffee company, and it is a French caramel, which is absolutely delightful. And I am drinking it again in my alpaca mug, which I got at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival quite a few years ago, 8.5 years ago. So, yeah, or almost 8.5 years ago. I guess that's coming up in May. So I am enjoying a cup of coffee today and buzzing a little bit, as you can see, but that was what I felt like today. And I will put a link on my website to this coffee. You can order it online. It's delicious. Like I said, it is local to us. There are a few locations in Kansas City, and it is sold in a lot of the grocery shops here as well. So, but that's one of my favorites. I will say that they brew their coffee very strongly, so I am careful when I brew it, not to brew it too strongly, and then, or they roast their coffee very strongly. I'm careful not to brew it as strongly, and also to generally try and finish it between 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and then not partake again, because it is highly caffeinated. So, yeah. So let's talk about the knits. I have less progress to show you than I wish I had this week, and I don't really know where the time went. Some of it I spent knitting some things that I will share with you, and some things that I didn't bring to share. I'm swatching some new color samples for Zen Yarn Garden. And they haven't announced them yet, so I didn't bring them to share. But I am making 4x4 swatches of all their new colors so they can take them to H&H Americas, which is an industry trade show this summer. And I actually will be attending as well on behalf of my day job. So I am also working on their next blanket knit along. Every year, Zen Yarn Garden does a blanket knit along where you sign up and you receive yarn in installments through the months, and then there are also some Zoom knitting sessions to cover techniques and tips and tricks, and also just so that we can knit along and chat. I am a sample knitter for Zen Yarn Garden, as well as I am I won't precisely say an instructor because I don't do a ton of teaching, but sort of a moderator and assistant for a lot of the knit-alongs and tutorials that they do. So I do quite a bit of work with them, and I always disclose when I am doing that. So this is a sample for them. It is called the 10-Stitch Blanket, which is a pattern on Ravelry by Frankie Brown. Unfortunately, it is only available on Ravelry, although it is a free download as a PDF. So if you are safe to use Ravelry, you can download it. Otherwise, if you want to participate in the knit along, I am sure we can work out a way to get the pattern to you. This is a pattern that I am using Zen Yarn Garden's Nightshade Worsted. I do have a card right here. So it is Zen Yarn Garden, and it is their Nightshade Worsted, which is a superwash merino worsted weight. The yarn is One of the strands is black, which is why we call it nightshade, and it gives it kind of a marled look. So no matter what colors you dye it, only certain strands take the color, and there's always going to be a strand of black in there. So I don't have the colorway names for these. These are kind of in the new set, and I'm sure they will be releasing them shortly. But this yarn is 175 yards per skein, which is 100 grams, and recommended needle size is US 5 to 7. So I have been working on this blanket for a little while. I should say the pattern calls for a US 9, and I am using a US 8. So let's talk about all the needle sizes. I'm using a US 8 because I tend to be a little bit of a loose knitter, and so I did not want to go all the way up to a 9 because I wasn't sure I would like the fabric. The pattern itself doesn't have recommended yardage. It also doesn't have a gauge. It is originally knit in Noro Curion, which is a worsted weight yarn. And so we decided to knit it approximately at the same, on the same needles roughly and the same gauge. And I don't know precisely how wide it will be. I need to finish knitting before I can tell you. This is the 4th skein, and I hope to finish it tonight. That is my plan. I had a small setback this week because this is the 10-stitch blanket, and I realized at a certain point when I had knit up at least half of this skein that I only had 9 stitches on my needles. And so I had to do some very, very careful sleuthing to figure out what had happened, and it turned out I accidentally knit one of my stitches together a ways back. So I ended up having to pull out this whole skein and a little bit of the previous skein and then re-knit. So I lost some time, and I feel like I would actually probably be done with this skein and ready to start the next skein if I had not sort of zigged when I should have zagged. So I'm almost ready for my next color. My plan is to finish this tonight and then start tomorrow night. As I have talked to you about this blanket, my yarns are basically 2 colors. So each yarn has 2 basic colors and then some overlap between them. So for instance, this is an orange and red yarn, and where they overlap a little bit, you get a little bit of a pink or a little bit of a lighter orange. This one is a red and blue, and as you can see, I have some areas of really light blue, and I believe that is because they were trying not to create too much purple sort of overlap between the dyes, although you will be able to see some of that as well. So they tried to keep the channels kind of clear, and so we ended up with some lighter sections of dye. So let's talk about the blanket. I am knitting the blanket in a perfect square, which is how the pattern is written, although I have a friend who is also knitting one right now, and she decided to make hers rectangular, which you can easily do if you knit sort of the first section a little bit longer than is called for. So this is the blanket that I have so far. It is definitely lap blanket or baby blanket sized at this point. I would say I probably have pretty close to 3 feet. I have not measured, but this is where I am so far. So at the center, I started with a purple and yellow, and then we moved out to a turquoise and purple. So the purple carried through, and then we moved out to an orange and turquoise. So the orange or the turquoise carried through, and now we are at red and orange. So this is going to be a wonderfully colorful rainbow blanket, and I am getting to the point. I just overlapped a little bit to do a second round with the previous color. I don't know if I will make that for this one, or if this one will be the first one that does not go all the way around or just kind of barely goes all the way around. This is a fairly simple pattern. It's basically just garter stitch for 10 stitches, not 9, 10. And you are doing a joining motion, so you are joining to the edge. So you're knitting back and forth for your garter ridges, and then on one round, on my knit round, I go ahead and join to the edge of the previous round. And then in the corners, there is a quick mitered corner that you do in every corner. So basically, once you understand how to do the mitered corner and once you understand how to do the join, you just continue working through. So I am basically right here at the edge, which means it is time for me to do a mitered corner and then continue down this edge right here. So I am knitting in basically a counterclockwise motion, and that is what I am doing for this blanket. So I completed the turquoise and orange section. I was just getting ready to No, I was finishing that last week. So I really have not done that much this week. I've done, well, 2.5 sides of the blanket this week. And of course it is getting bigger, so that is of some significance, but not a huge significance. So I really need to get my butt in gear on this one. I would love to finish this by the end of April. Today's April 11th. I am about to start the 5th skein, so that tells me I need to do a skein about every 5 days. I'm not sure if that's possible, but that is what I am going to work towards. So this one will see lots of love this week, and I don't know about some of the other projects that I'm working on. I think I will probably make this my main focus. So the second project that I'm working on, let me put this all back in the bag, is actually something for myself, and that's something... Basically, whatever project is for myself usually gets a little bit of short shrift each week because I spend time working on my commissions and samples before then. So if there's any time left over, I spend it working on my own sweater. A combination of really long rows and lots of different things going on this week, and we were out one night, meant that I did not actually get very far on my own sweater this week. I am knitting Oyster, which is a pattern in the Rowan Spring Summer collection. It's actually the Mode at Rowan Spring Summer booklet, and it is a cardigan. It is kind of an oversized cardigan, cotton, with some detailing in reverse stockinette and stockinette stitch, and I am knitting it in a gorgeous purple. And I am in my the last ball that I had pulled out, but I have plenty more. So this is the colorway. It is called Precious, and it shows up a little bit bluer than I think it shows in real life. The cardigan is pieced, as are many of the Rowan cardigans. If you've been with me for the last few weeks, you know this. And the pieces are knit from the bottom up, and the sleeves are knit at the same time. They are knit across rather than in the round or short rows, horizontally perpendicular to the body. They are actually knit in concert with the body. So what I am creating right now is I'm working on the back, and it's going to look a little like a T. And I would say I am approximately halfway through the sleeves, maybe a little bit less than halfway through the sleeves. I had just started the sleeves last week when I talked to you, so I don't have a ton more to show. I feel like I've been knitting all week, but like I said, I can't... I don't have as much to show you as I would like. So here is the body of my cardigan. It starts, well, let me make sure I'm showing you the correct side. I think I was showing you the wrong side. It doesn't really matter other than that I'm looking for my ends that I'll need to weave in when I am done. Okay, so this is the right side of the fabric. It starts with a 2x2 rib hem for several inches, and then it goes into this basically garter stitch, stockinette stitch and reverse stockinette stitch patterning, which will block out. And then as I showed you last week, I had cast on for the sleeves, and I had some underarm shaping, as you can see, for several rows, and then I cast on for the sleeves. So I have approximately, I'm going to say 2.5 to 3 inches of sleeves here, and I need to do approximately again the same before I am finished, and then I will start doing the shaping for the bind off of the sleeves and the shaping for the shoulders. So I do think that the back will be complete in the next week or two. It depends how much time I have to put into it. I would love to get this done soon because we are definitely in the changing of the seasons, whereby it's cool in the mornings and warm in the afternoons, and also pretty soon we are going to start turning on the central air in the house because it's going to be hot and humid, as is the case here every summer in the Midwest. And I think a cotton cardigan will be really nice this summer for fending off against the air conditioning chill, but also not being too warm and too kind of bulky and heavy. So that is the project that I have in progress right now, and I hope to get more done on that this week. We'll just have to see. Again, like I said, this is the one that gets less attention when I have other things going on. But I do have to remind myself that for a couple reasons, that when I'm done with the back, I'm basically done with just about half the sweater. So I keep forgetting that I'm actually knitting the sleeves as I go, so I won't have the sleeves to do when I'm done, because that's what I'm working on right now. So basically the only thing I will have done after, or the only thing I will have left after I finish knitting the back and the two fronts, is I will need to do the button band and the seaming, but I won't actually have a large amount of knitting to do. So I, as I watch my dwindling yarn and I feel like this is taking forever, I still, like I said, I have to remind myself that I'm knitting the sleeves along with the body, so that's why it feels like it's taking forever, and that I'm not concentrating on it solely, but that is what's going on here. So that is my Oyster sweater, and I really, really like it. I'm looking forward to having it to wear. So that is that one. And then I thought I would just bring you, because this week's chicken is interesting. This week I am working on another chicken for the City Girl Farm. I will link them in my show notes. I am a contractor. I work for them to help them create their beautiful chicken footstools, which are really more art pieces than anything else. I do occasionally spin yarn for them, but in general, I am not a spinner for them. I am just a knitter. And this week, we are kind of embracing spring. The batch of yarn that I got this week is very, very springy and very Easter-like. And so these are the colors that I am working with this week. So it is kind of a creamy natural color. Oops, that's the wrong side. Creamy natural color, and then hints of the other colors. And this is going to be kind of the main body pieces. But then I have one skein of all these glorious colors together. So it's kind of like a minty color, a kind of purple gray, and then a pale pink in here. And so these are some of the colors that I've worked with before. You've seen the pale pink and some of the lavender in the ballerina chicken that I did a few weeks ago, but this is kind of a current spring. I was joking calling it the spring chicken. So that is what I am working on this week. So spinning wise, I don't have a ton to show you because I am working on a beautiful spin and it is taking me forever because it is spinning up really, really thin. I showed you last week some fiber from Into the World. I have two braids. It is a merino yak silk blend and it is absolutely luscious. It takes the colors gorgeously. The fiber is not a pure white. It has some darker in it, so even the lightest tones are a little bit heathered or grayed, and it gives a really delightful texture. And the yarn is a mix of kind of reds, pinks, and oranges, and then kind of a turquoisey blue. And you can't see too much of the blue. You can see just a little bit of the blue as it goes into purple. You might be able to see on the bobbin, if I hold it real close up, you can see some of the turquoise in there. It is a really, really bright turquoise. This is the first braid, and I spun this braid completely straight through. So I didn't tear it into strips. I spun it from one end to the other in really long color chunks. So I would say it was probably half blue and half kind of this red orange, almost a sunrisey color. And so I spun the first one straight through, and the second braid that I decided to spin to go along with this, I broke in half lengthwise. So divided it straight down the middle lengthwise so that I will have two repeats of the colors. So it will be approximately the same proportions, but what I will end up with is sort of a subtle striping yarn. The reason that I did this is because I was a little afraid that if I just broke it into pieces and spun it as is, that I would end up with kind of a mottled skein where the reds and oranges and pinks overlapped the purples and turquoises, and so there was no kind of definition to the skein, and you didn't get some of the rich colors that were in it because they were sort of bouncing off each other, and maybe I didn't want it to look either like a semi-solid skein. Well, it wouldn't look semi-solid. I didn't want the orange always to be next to the blue. I wanted to have sections where blue was next to blue and where orange and pink were next to orange and pink. And the best way I could think of to come up with that was to sort of use fractal spinning, which is more or less what I'm doing, except I'm doing it with multiple braids, so I'm not breaking every braid into smaller bits. So this is approximately 4 ounces. The other braid will be approximately 4 ounces. I will then ply them together and we'll see what we get. And I haven't decided yet whether this one's for me or to go into the shop. This is going to be a pretty luscious braid, and I do have some thoughts. We'll be traveling, maybe, providing conditions hold, we may be traveling later this year, and I want to travel light. So my thought is that I will take maybe this one skein of yarn to make some kind of fabulous shawl with. So that's kind of in my mind for the plans. I don't have another spin lined up for this week. I actually finished because I got up so early today, I finished my work a little early. I've been spinning today. I might have about a third of the next braid on the wheel, but my assumption is that it will take me the rest of the week to kind of finish this up, because this one has been super slow going because it wants to spin so thin. So, and it just takes me longer to spin thin. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope that your week is off to a good start. I wish you much happiness, beautiful weather, good health, and fun crafts to sort of sink your teeth into. Okay, not sink your teeth into, to dip into for the week. So I will say, as I always do, thank you for spending time with me, and until I see you next time, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.